you know a lot of shit, and like you've clearly packaged this in really easy to understand ways. It's almost exhausting listening because it's like when you read a really good historical book or something, it's like every sentence is packed with a fact. You seem like a grinder. When you were building these businesses, were you just like doing 80-hour, $100 work weeks? And what about now? Because you're like yoked, you're huge, you're like a bodybuilder. So like, how did you balance like being fit and getting married? But I don't know you well, but you seem like you'd be grinding hard.
So my wife works in the business with me. So we are true 50-50 partners. Like, it's very rare. I recognize how rare it is. She actually is 100% matched with me and like should just as much be on this call because she runs the other half. Like, she, from a work standpoint, she has more output than I do. She is the operator. So she builds the infrastructure, she does the recruiting, she sets the HR stuff, she does the culture, she runs everything. I just, occasionally come up with a good idea and try and stick with it long enough to see it come true. But in terms of grinding, like, I love business. Like, I love this, and there's nothing that really stimulates me like this, and so I do as much of it as I can. And if we want to go out to dinner, we go out to dinner, but like we're I was gonna say we're single, so we don't have kids, and so we work from like 5-ish to 4, and then usually in the middle of the day we'll probably go to the gym for an hour or two and then come back and keep working and go out to dinner at night, and that's kind of our lives.
You seem pretty this isn't, I would say I'm definitely this. Sean has a little bit of it too. Like, manic's not the right word, but like neurotic maybe is a better word, where it's like there's something that's deep rooted inside of you. It's not like you want to do something necessarily. It feels like it's more compulsive or obsessed. You're obsessed about stuff, which I am as well. If that's true, what's that rooted in? What are you trying to get done?
So I think originally the drive was from just crippling insecurity and needing approval, right? And then I think from like a behavioral conditioning standpoint, I got immediate feedback that was positive, and then I was conditioned to continue those actions. Now I continue to do them without the original catalyst that got them going to begin with. I don't think I suffer, from the insecurities as much as I used to. I'd say I'm probably 30% better than I was at the beginning. And it might just be because I have this massive big pile of money that I can use as an emotional crutch to why I'm not a piece of shit.
That would help.
I'm just being like, and if it were all disappeared, I'd find out how much actual growth I had, or if I just compensated by circumstance and, compensated for the deficiency. I don't know.
You can send it to me and we'll find out. We'll see.
Yeah,
let's run the experiment.
So there's the compulsion. And like this last year, I pretty much took off. Like, I did not work that much. And so I saw the difference, and I have come to accept that I love working, and I don't need to judge myself for that or take in other people's judgment on how much I should, quote, do. Like, this is my life, and this is what I like doing, and their ideals that they've arbitrarily made up as what they define as balance are irrelevant to me.
Well, you said you took last year off. What'd you do? What'd you get up to?
We traveled a lot. Went to Cabo, went to Scottsdale, went to Sedona, went to Flagstaff, traveled all over, went out. Felt honestly pretty empty. Like, you can only eat so many times. Like, there's just not a lot to do.
It feels good having that rest, though. Like, you can't be in the trenches, I think. Like, or rather, you need breaks from being at war.
I think, and maybe even phrasing it, I'm just throwing this out there, like phrasing it as instead of a break as a shift in how you're thinking. Because like, it's going from dirt to clouds, but I still think it's high leverage activity. You know what I mean? Or like output. It's just a different type of output.
You said something on one of your videos that you're one of the only other people that I have heard say this phrase. I use it a lot, which is, yeah, I had a season like, or this season I'm doing this, or I had a season where I was really just focusing on X. And that's been like a game changer for me. My personal trainer and kind of coach, he's like my mindset coach plus trainer. He does this all the time where he's like, I'm in a season right now where I'm just, and he'll be like, I'm practicing not waiting. And he's like, hey, he comes up with these little themes, or he'll be like, right now I'm in a season where I'm going to eat whatever I want. And it's kind of like in the entrepreneurial world, it's like time boxing. It's like, all right, I'm going to give myself 2 hours to get this shit done, or I'm going to launch in the next 2 weeks, no matter what, right? Like I've used time boxing for productivity. And now this seasons thing, it makes every like decision you're making less heavy of a commit, because you're like, it's okay. Yeah, there's beginnings and ends. And this season is going to feel a little different, just like winter feels different than summer. That's how I use it. Do you use it like that? I just noticed you said that phrase.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I think about it in terms of entrepreneurial seasons. And at least for me, mine have been like 5-year chunks. And so this is going to be my 4th season, and they've roughly been about the same length. So I think that it probably takes me like 3-ish years to like really see something through, and then 2 years to figure out how I'm going to transition from that thing or realize or whatever. That's what it's kind of like a PE cycle almost.
Give us kind of like, give us an example of normal, like here's the default way people are doing something, and then here's the rephrase or the reframe that has better results. I would love to get 2 minutes of learning sales from Alex.
Sure. So it's my belief, if you look at Belfort, you look at Bradley, you look at Grant Cardone, some of the big sales trainers that are out there, almost all of them invariably have the same story, which is I started selling and was the best guy on the team by a fucking mile. And then I tried to figure out what I was doing. And so I do think that some people naturally, based on their childhood, their upbringings, their whatever, are just have a higher proclivity for selling, which carries over.
Just a gift of gab and empathy.
Yeah. And I think it carries over into how you recruit for selling too, because we've built a lot of sales teams. And I actually have a very short allowing for people to fail at sales cycle, probably much shorter than most people. And it's just because I've never had a killer salesperson who didn't do pretty well the first week. And so for me, we turn through those quickly, but as a result of that, the team is just killers, and they know that. In terms of sales stuff, I think people don't know how, people are really freaked out about the idea of selling. And the front part of that is that I do think that the number one predictor of good sales is conviction. Fundamentally, you have one person who should believe in something, another person who does not believe it yet, and trust is the thing that transfers that conviction. So if fundamentally there's the two things you need trust and you need conviction. Most times salespeople don't have 100% trust, 100% conviction. And so the idea of conviction as a binary is false. So it's not like I believe it or I don't believe it. Is to what extent do I believe, right? And so that's why, like, in terms of if I want to improve a sales team, I can do the drills, which we do, and that's like blocking and tackling. But the thing that really juices a sales team is hearing the testimonials of the people that they sold last week and what they're doing today and how their lives have changed. And so I noticed this because on my sales teams, when we were in person, whenever I did way out day, which is when everyone finished their challenges and everybody was crying and so excited, I tried to stack as many sales appointments as I could while people were weighing out. And during those days, we closed like 100% because people were like, dude, how can you not think this works? It's right there. And so the thing is like, you can either trick yourself into having the right tone or you can train yourself. And I think that it's much easier to trick yourself into it by just simply believing, because if you truly believe in the product, you will talk about it differently. And so in terms of an understanding of selling, if you need to have conviction, you need to have trust. Trust is going to come from expertise and some level of rapport, right? I think that overarchingly, to help someone sell, we just have to ask the right questions to get someone to come to the conclusion on their own. And so most sales conversations follow more or less the same framework if you know what you're doing. Otherwise, people are just chasing their tail and trying to chase a prospect to an outcome that the prospect doesn't know how. Like, we've had this conversation 100 times. They have only had it once. We should be the one knowing how this conversation is supposed to go, right? We should also come in with a massive advantage to how to have this conversation go the way we want it to, because we do it all fucking day, right? And so big front end pieces is like, why are they there? What's the problem? What have they done so far? Understanding where they failed, seeing why our product is different from the things that they failed, asking for permission to explain about the product, explaining the product not in any way based on features, but only based on the experiences that they will have as a result of it, and using analogies to explain those experiences, and then having a close at the end, which the TikTok I think that you referenced was like a no-base close. And I think a lot of natural salespeople do this anyways. Like if I want something, I'm gonna be like, hey, can you do this for me? I'm like, hey, would you mind? And they say no. I don't mind, right? Like this natural communication dynamics that most people who naturally know how to persuade people or at least influence do that on their own. This is just retroactively looking at it and saying, what did I do different? Like, why is this different? In terms of like overcoming, because people are afraid of confrontation, right? That's what they're afraid of. And so I believe that you can sell without ever having confrontation. And you can do that with what I like to call childlike curiosity. And so if someone says, well, my husband's not going to approve of that, I'm like, why wouldn't he? What do you like, that's so interesting. Tell me more about that. Rather than like, all right, let's like, your husband's an asshole. Like that's not going to work because in arguments, no one wins, right? And so I'd be like, why would he think that? Because I would think that he wants what's best for you, right? Yeah, he wants what's best. Does he know you're struggling with this right now? Well, I mean, yeah, he knows I'm struggling with it. Okay, so he wants what's best for you, he knows you're struggling with it. So why do you think he would be opposed to solving something that you're currently struggling with? Just so I understand, would he be happier if you continue to struggle? Well, no. It's like, well, great. Then would you be opposed to moving forward today? And that way, and hey, if you go home to your husband and you make a joke and it lightens the scenario and then you close it, right? And so I think childlike curiosity is the immediate that you have to train because people get defensive. So that is one thing that like fighters talk about when they're in the ring. Like in the beginning, you breathe in too much, right? I don't know if you've been in like sparring and stuff, like you breathe too much, you hyperventilate. And so the guys who've done it enough, they slow down their breathing because when things get intense, they can slow it down. And so I think sales is a lot the same way where you're like, your adrenaline kicks in, you start breathing faster, it's fight or flight. So you got to be able to slow it down and be like, that's crazy. I wouldn't have thought that. Okay, tell me more about that. And like now you're interested. And then they don't feel like you're combating them. They feel like you genuinely are interested and want to help them, which is what you should be doing, because you should be selling them only if it makes sense.
You are full of like interesting insights, and like you know a lot of shit, and like you've clearly packaged this in really easy to understand ways. It's almost exhausting listening, because it's like when you read a really good historical book or something. It's like every sentence is packed with a fact.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh my gosh, like I gotta
I want to pay attention the whole time. I was like, exhausting. This is awesome.
Hormozi Nation, if you enjoyed that video, smash the subscribe button and hit the little notification bell. The reason for that is because I don't actually have a cadence for when I make these videos. So if you want to make sure you don't miss the next one that comes out, go subscribe, notify, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.